Okay. Anytime you're ready.
All right. Ready. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of The Interviews at the Hill House. Scott Firkin is not available tonight, so I'm filling in. My name is Josh Schneider, and I could not be happier to be filling in tonight because I'm a self-professed jazz nerd, and I get to nerd out big time tonight with the band that we've got here at the Hill House. It's CTI Plus, and I am privileged to have one of the band members, the saxophonist of the band, Mike Tracy, here. Mike, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening to you.
Well, Mike, let's get right into it.
Sure.
What is CTI Plus?
Well, as we discussed earlier, It comes from Creed Taylor Incorporated, and it was a record label at a certain time in jazz as the music went from swing and traditional types of music to a more contemporary style. And he had a very unique sound, and he had unique artwork.
Right.
And he was somebody that had worked with other labels, and he knew a lot of artists, and a lot of the really hot artists like Freddie Hubbard and Joe Henderson, people like that came with him.
Right.
And that's how the label, and I wanted to play this music. So I called up my friends and said, let's play this music, and that's what happened.
So let's talk about your friends. Who's in the band?
We have Marlon McGaughey on flugelhorn and trumpet. Marlon's the newest person to our musical community here in Louisville. He's a great instrumentalist and musician. We're really lucky to have him. And then on guitar, we have Craig Wagner. Craig and I have known each other, seems like forever. We've been all over the world together playing music, and it's always a treat playing with Craig. Todd Hildreth on keyboards and synth and things like that tonight that make the music sound authentic. Todd is much like Craig in the sense that they play together a lot through a group called Java Men.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a great combination of the two of them together. Then we have Doug Elmore on bass, who during his daytime gig is a symphony director at a high school, who's really a marvelous director and wins all these awards with his students. And then on the weekends, he does this. And Doug is really the backbone of the group. And finally on drums is Terry O'Mahony, somebody I have known since Terry was a student at U of L when I first started the program there. And we've been friends ever since. We went to the same high school, but at different times. So Terry's kind of a thread that goes through a lot of things that I've done over the years.
Well, yeah, and you've done quite a things over the years. You are locally born here in Louisville, grew up in the area, in the Iroquois area?
I grew up not a couple streets from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were solely responsible for the jazz program at U of L.
Well,
a big part of it.
I helped plant the seed. A lot of people played a role in it, and I'm fortunate that I got to dream big and do things that I wanted to do because nobody was there to watch me. And
No, right.
seriously, they weren't. And they needed the music because it was lacking in their program.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing led to another, and that was 40-some years of my life.
And so you were newly retired as of last year?
Yep.
What were some of the things that you were doing at U of L as far as creating that and molding that jazz program?
Well, at the beginning, it was really just me. And I taught saxophone and ran the big band, did combos, taught jazz theory. I did a history class. I got other people on board. As time went on, there was more students than I could handle, so I manipulated the system and got other people hired. I literally went out and raised money by asking people like you and Pam and Patrick to help fund John LaBarbera, who was a world-renowned composer and arranger, to come to U of L because I knew through his brother Pat that John was looking to move, and I'm going, oh, he would be great. And so John came, and once John came, then Jamie Abersol joined us, and then one thing after another, all these blocks started falling into place. So that was the case, and then throughout that time, I was somewhat instrumental in raising funds for the school, for the jazz program. And there's a thing called Jazz Week or Jazz Fest. That was something that we started back then because we wanted to get major artists to come in. Ironically, the very first Jazz Week concert, we had Randy Brecker as our star artist, and that was, oh my gosh, that would have been 1993 or 4.
Oh, wow.
A long time ago. And Randy came in and played. We're going to play 2 of his numbers tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear them.
So we did that, and then another component of what I feel really lucky to have done is there was an international component, and we were just talking about Brazil.
Yeah.
We have students from all over the world that came to school because of interactions that we had through friends, through contacts, things like that came to school. So we have graduates that are teaching programs throughout Europe and throughout South America.
Well, didn't you tell me at one point you had a contact that was responsible for bringing over like 200 Brazilian students to the U of L program?
Well, kind of. What happened is I met this guy who was looking for a place to go to school, and Vadim, he was there, and I was part-time, and they said, come back in, this guy wants to talk, and I said, I'm So I ended up coming back in. He and I met, and that one moment changed the lives of thousands of people, because he came to school, he graduated, he went back to Brazil, became the head of their program in Brasilia. He invited me to come down. I went down, I met all these musicians who are now friends of mine, who are now alumni of U of L, and their families would come here, our families would go there. There was one year that I took 40 people to Brazil to have to play concerts, and we still keep that alive. I was there this year, and it's a big family. We go there, and everybody gets together, and we all commiserate about where our families have gone. That same person, he now is a grandfather of twins. I have twins, and so it's all these things that are connected that happen through U of L.
And well, let's go into that, because you were talking about the fact that you have they're still educating. You're still teaching to some degree and participating in the jazz journey. And you were talking about some of the camps that you're involved in. Could you tell the audience about that?
Sure. Well, I have had a workshop here in town for the last 4 years. After COVID, things had to change, and this workshop was designed for adults, people like the people here tonight.
Yeah.
And if you played music and wanted to play jazz, then we had a week-long workshop that we just completed a month ago. The same faculty that's here, they've taught that workshop, because they're all great educators. And these people go back home and they spread the word. And we're doing that. The next year I'm taking a group to Brazil. If anybody wants to come, you're welcome to join. I'll give you the information for it. That'll be a workshop there, learning Brazilian music with 20-plus Brazilian musicians. Many of the ones that went to school here, they all speak English. They all love being with us, and it's a great time. So
very cool.
That's part of what I'm still doing.
Very cool. Well, let's talk about the set list tonight before we run out of time. So we're doing a jazz fusion set list tonight, and it's interesting. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm a jazz nerd. There's stuff in here that I hadn't really even listened to.
Me neither.
So let's get to so as a collective unit, how do you guys get together? And as I understand it, this is really only the fourth time you guys have played together?
In public, yeah.
So as a unit, how do you guys get together and decide what you're going to play for a show like the Hill House?
Well, first off, Pam and Patrick asked to put a fusion thing together. And when I started thinking about it, when I think of fusion music, I don't think of horns.
No.
At first. And then I started going, well, what are we going to do? That's the identity of the group. Is part of it is having horns in it. And so as more I started thinking about it, I went, oh, the Brecker brothers, they have things. And then it started growing from there. And then I asked the guys, okay, do you have any suggestions? Doug suggested a couple of Jaco Pastorius pieces, and somebody else did this, and someone else did that. Marlon wanted to do this one. And so it's a collective. It's not any one person's band. We're all doing this together. And that's a better way of doing it, because we all have a say.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting, because that's the other observation I made was each particular song really stretches out a single performer. So, yeah, your bass player is going to be worn out playing some Weather Report tonight because he's got some Jaco.
He can sleep in tomorrow. It's okay.
Yeah, right, exactly. But, I mean, so talk about David Sanborn is not somebody I normally think of as a fusion type. I think of him more of kind of as a popular jazz. So as far as, and he's featured. His song, it's Marcus Miller that's most of the stuff that's on tonight. But where is that coming from as far as anybody a huge fan of David Sanborn, or was that just kind of a...
I was stretching. I was trying to find people that played the style of music that could be considered fusion. And fusion, for me, is a bigger thing than just a couple different groups. So I tried to think of it as fusing music that was traditional from the bebop era and the hard bop and all that to what's more contemporary. And so that opened the door up to someone like Miles Davis or Eddie Harris, things of that nature. So it was a fusing of different styles that became popular. That's how I saw it.
Right.
I mean, like a fusion group would be like My Vision Orchestra. Well, we don't have a violin player.
Right.
So you can't do that. And then you have Chick, but he had horns at times too. Right. So there's all kind of different things, and it could be done in different directions. So I tried to find things that fit the individuals in the band.
So if you could, would you educate the audience as far as your definition of fusion? What do you...
just the word fusion means is putting together disparate parts.
Right.
And at that time, you got to think in the late... I think it goes back as early as fusing pop music like Cannonball Adderley would have done. Mm-hmm. He was fusing things. He was becoming more popular, more bluesy-oriented. Someone like Horace Silver with the Latin influence and things of that nature. Then it moved into the CTI kind of thing, where they're fusing. Miles Davis would have a group. They would play electronically, and they were doing things that other musicians that were his friends and his admirers just didn't like it. He said, "You're not swinging." Well, he didn't care. He wanted to search more. So for me, fusion is fusing, putting things together that are not normally together to come up with something new. So that's where that's where my thoughts are.
And it kind of is also a genre or a part of jazz where it's also stretching things out to beyond what the normal jazz performer would play, in the sense that it's redefining boundaries of what jazz can be. So it's in my opinion, it's kind of melding what you're talking about, the different styles, but it's also kind of pushing out the lines of...
Well, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, too, the rhythmical feels of the songs are very different than swing.
Right.
I don't think we're not doing any swing songs tonight.
No.
And the different rhythms are indicative of fusing different styles together. Harmonically, it's different. We're not playing Bye Bye Blackbird or Green Dolphin Street. They're elongating in a modal type way some songs. Other ones have changes like, man, where did that come from? And we're playing the Weather Report things is like, wow, I don't hear that. And the more I listen to it, now I hear it. Yeah. So it's changing the rhythms, changing the harmony, giving the soloist an opportunity to stretch out. So,
yeah, it's definitely a form that has to challenge the musician as far as the norm, and incorporating everything else that you're talking about.
And it's also collective. When you get together in a jazz group, it's a collective regardless because people are working together and they're playing off of each other. Well, in this case, it's almost like each one of us has at times a different part in the piece that's not the same as somebody else's, but they fit together well.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not giving a textbook answer for fusion, but
I don't think there is one.
I'm far from textbook, so you go ahead.
No, I just figured as a former professor, it's good to have you educate the audience as far as, what... Because I think jazz is defined by its different stages, certainly, and fusion is a major role in the history of jazz.
No, and I'll be straight with you. A lot of this stuff I didn't listen to before. I mean, I listened to it. I knew it was there. I appreciated the people playing it.
Right.
But when I'm going, I got to play this. I better learn this. So you can ask my wife. There was many a nights I would stay up till midnight, and I'm playing through these tunes with the recordings and trying to just understand what's going on, because my background is in more traditional things, bebop and hard bop and Brazilian music, and this was a stretch for me, and I think for the group. Yeah. I don't think any one song all of us have played it, meaning that maybe somebody has played it, somebody else has played it, but the rest of us hadn't.
Right.
And then another song, these guys have played it, but they hadn't.
Right.
So by putting it together, it made it a more collective situation.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got, the Miles Smiles, which one was that? Oh, the Freedom Jazz Dance. I mean, that's a very difficult song to perform, in my mind, and I'm not a musician, so you tell me. But, I mean, that's not an easy song.
I mean, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to... No. It's got a challenging line that Marlon and I have to play together. Yeah. But other than that, we're improvising.
Yeah.
And that's a stretch when you talk about fusion. Somebody say, how's that fusing? Well, it's kind of a funk thing or kind of a different rhythm. And that wasn't done until it's Eddie Harris's song.
Right.
And his version of it is very different than what Miles did. Mm-hmm. So we're just taking it and changing it too.
So is that what you guys tend to do as well, as take the basic concept of that particular song and stretch it out in ways that you all feel comfortable with? Or is there an interpretation there amongst the band members?
That's a good question. A lot of the songs we've we're playing them closely, somewhat close to the recording.
Okay.
Not exactly. We're not trying to be a cover band.
Yeah.
We're not totally destroying a song. There's some other places where I've been in groups where we just take a song and just, well, not too long ago at the Jazz Workshop, there, Dennis DeBlasio was there, and he did, Killer Joe. Okay. And we all think of Killer Joe, and he burned it. He played it so fast, and we're going like, what? It was very cool. Now, that's a different definition of changing the song. Right. In our case, a lot of it is close to the original, but it's not the same. We only had 2 rehearsals. So we didn't have a whole lot of time. Right. We had to make the most expedient way of getting through something and making it work musically. Yeah. That was my goal. Okay. Well, I want to get a little bit back into your background, because a lot of people don't realize that there's a rich history of jazz in Louisville. Mm-hmm. You can list off of quite a few very big performers. Johnny Hammond Smith comes to mind as far as somebody that's from Louisville that contributed to the jazz scene. So Mike Tracy, growing up in Iroquois, how does he get involved in jazz? Okay, I wanted to play music. Okay. I lived on Palatka Road, and I came home from school, and the teacher went around to 4th grade and was asking who wants to play music. Okay, because my parents, while they weren't musicians, they were very musical. And I came home and said, I want to play music. Okay. So I went back and I asked the lady, I want to play trumpet. And she goes, I don't think that's a good choice for you because your dental setup is not right. Oh, so my parents had a friend who owned a saxophone. For $50, I got this alto saxophone. That was it. And so I took lessons. I was at the school at it's down the hill over there off of Palatka Road. Used to be Kennedy, or not Kennedy, Kenwood? Yeah, down at the bottom of the hill. I took lessons there for 2 years, and we moved up to Hikes Point, and then I ended up going to Seneca High School. And that's where Terry went to school, too. And the band program there was quite extensive at that time. And so my dad listened to big band music, I listened to symphony things, and I took lessons from the age of, I was 7. Oh, wow. Private lessons. So I would drive down, I would take a bus from here downtown, or Hikes Point downtown, and take lessons on my own. And one thing led to another, and I loved listening to big band music. And I just started doing that. I played, the all-state stuff, and I was pretty accomplished at doing those things. And then when I came back to college, U of L didn't offer a saxophone. Saxophone was not an instrument they would let you study. Okay. There. Saxophone and guitar, they would not let you study those. They would not let you study them? No, they would not. They just had a prejudice against those 2 particular instruments? Well, the guitar had frets. Okay. And the saxophone was an evil instrument. Ah, I didn't realize this. Yeah, well, I didn't either. It was 1969 when I graduated high school. Well, things were changing. I went to UK. I just didn't like UK. It just wasn't for me. Yeah. And so the band director at U of L knew me from being here in town playing in bands that he had, concert bands. And I said, I need to go somewhere else to school. Well, they had to find a saxophone teacher. They had to finally get over that. And so they ended up finding Jamie Abersol. So once Jamie started teaching there, I was there. And he taught there for 2.5 years, and then he couldn't take it anymore because it was just not a warming and welcoming place. Okay. It wasn't anything against anybody individually, just didn't know how to deal with us. Right. Jazz was like pop music to them. Right. They didn't understand that it was a whole different thing. So I would take lessons, classical music at the university, played in the symphony. I played actually in the ELO when I was like 20. And then I would drive to Jamie's house in New Albany and take a jazz lesson. So that's how I got started. Okay. So big band, you were what, Johnny Hodges, Ben Webster, those guys, or even further back? No, as much as I love Johnny Hodges and Ben Webster, I didn't dig the sound. Okay. I wanted to sound more like Cannonball or Charlie Parker, and I listened to like Woody Herman and other big bands of that ilk, and that's where then later on in life I've learned to appreciate them, certainly. Yeah. Well, that's a good. Charlie Parker's a good place to start. Well, that's where Jamie's head was at, and that's who was teaching me. And, and I would have Coleman Hawkins and Ben Webster and listen to them. Just that vibrato just didn't touch me. Right. But now, as an elderly person listening to this, I greatly appreciate what those men went through to play music.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think my time is running out. So, as I'm a former educator, you're still an educator. Jazz is one of those things that I think I would love to see it more present in kids K through 12. So, if you were going to give one piece of advice to anybody out there that's trying to spread the love and joy of an appreciation of jazz, what advice would you, even if it's just like you should listen to X, Y, and Z? What, in your mind, what's a good way to kind of initiate exactly what you grew up in as far as understanding, loving, and being addicted to jazz?
Music is music.
Yeah.
And I go to bed at night listening to classical music. I wake up and I choose to listen to things on my computer from different countries. Friends will send me things. So it's a matter of being exposed.
Yeah.
When you just mentioned Johnny Hodges and Ben Webster, I can add Paul Desmond to that. I really, as a young person, they just didn't touch me, all right? But now when I listen to them, I go, wow, I blew that. I didn't know. I wasn't as aware as I should have been. I think young people, as many as I've been around, and I include that from the age of 6 up to 60, because we're all young and we're all learning. You just got to be exposed and have someone. I had a class when COVID was here. There was a class I had online just about listening to jazz. That's a title that comes from a friend of mine, Jerry Coker, and Jerry had a real perceptive way of explaining the music to the novice or to the person who was skilled. And I used that text as a model for what I shared. I guarantee you, if a young person like Craig's son, he's playing oboe and saxophone. He's been exposed to this kind of music his whole life. He doesn't know any different.
Right.
He didn't have that barrier that I met when I tried to go to U of L back in 1969, 68. It was not something where they said, we don't understand it, so let's not do it.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, I don't understand it, let's figure it out.
Right.
So I think that if I had an edict I could put across all the school systems, keep doing what you're doing, but to see if there's a time when you can add this. We do school concerts all the time, and we play things, and the students get really excited. First of all, they're out of class, and we're making noise, and I think that's cool.
Right.
But we play the music, and we talk to them about it, and we treat them as somewhat equals in this journey, because you can't. What is music if no one's listening to you? And we need them to listen, and they sit there quiet. And you explain things that are going on. They can hear that, like 2 and 4, or here's the beginning, and they figure that out. So I just think it's a matter of giving. And you can't ask the teachers to do too much more. They're overwhelmed.
Right.
A lot of them, when they go through school, are not given extensive education in jazz. So therefore, to ask them to explain that is asking a whole lot. But I mean, my whole life, when I was younger, when I first out of high school, out of college, I was part of the NEA. They did a mandate to put people into schools, jazz in the schools. Well, Harry Pickens was one. I met Harry there. I was one. Another guy, Ken Sloan. A bunch of different people who are now, or who Ken has passed, but other people who have been important in this world of music. We were hired to go out into schools to help the teachers do this. So I taught in Louisville. I taught in Ohio County. I taught in the hills in Kentucky, Ashland.
Really?
And we were there to bring the music to them. That's what I'll be political now. That's when our government can spend money wisely, all right, and actually affect change, and affect good change, because it meant they were doing something that was challenging them and explaining creativity and spontaneity.
I couldn't agree anymore. I think that is a perfect way to describe it, because it's changed my life. I'm a huge music fan. I'm a massive jazz fan, and moments like this are extremely exciting for someone like me to get to hear live jazz in a wonderful venue. So, Mike, I want to thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
This was one of my favorite shows from last year, and I think it's going to be a good one tonight. So I'll be sitting back with a chest-out grin.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, great job. Thank you. Very much appreciate it. Yeah. Good job. Thanks, Mike. It was great talking to you. Appreciate it. All right.